Hi friends, we are discussing magnetic materials. Under that, we started to understand something called magnetic bubble memory. So using a rare earth orthoferrite material, this is the structure of magnetic bubble memory inside. Now you observe carefully this particular thing. When there is no external magnetic field, you can find the formation of a magnetic bubble memory. So in a thin magnetic film, this is made up of ferrite or garnet. The magnetic domain looks like wavy strips, like waves. The magnetic strips are arranged in two ways, namely pointing up and pointing down. When a polarized light is applied to the material, one set of strips appears as bright, whereas the other appears as dark. Now, the behavior of these strips is entirely different when you apply a varying external magnetic field in a direction perpendicular to the film. So, what will happen when a magnetic field is applied? We shall see. When a magnetic field applied perpendicular to the thin film, the magnetic domain strips oppose the external magnetic field, and as a result, it starts shrinking. That means it begins to shrink. So when this external field crosses a high value, all the magnetic domains are suddenly concentrated into smaller circular areas of diameters in the order of few microns. So these smaller circular areas are known as domain. That means originally it was like this. When you start applying magnetic field perpendicular to this, they start shrinking, and when the external field we are applying crosses a high value, suddenly all these domains are concentrated into smaller circular areas of very few micron diameters. So let us see how they will appear when this applied magnetic field crosses a high value. This is magnetic bubble memory made up of ferrite or garnet. The magnetic domain looks like wavy strips. So the magnetic strips are arranged in two ways, namely pointing up and pointing down. So when a polarized light is applied to the material, one set of strip appears as bright while the other appears as dark. Right? Now the behavior of these strips entirely different when a varying external magnetic field is applied in a direction perpendicular to the thin film. That is, when a magnetic field is applied perpendicular to the thin film, the magnetic domain strips oppose the external magnetic field, and as a result, they begin to shrink like this. So when this external magnetic field crosses a high value, all the magnetic domains are suddenly concentrated like this, suddenly concentrated into smaller circular areas of diameters in the order of few microns. These smaller circular areas of domains are what are known as bubble. So these bubbles resemble soap bubbles on a liquid surface. One can move the floating magnetic bubbles by the application of an external magnetic field or a current field. So the generated magnetic bubbles are very stable in a particular applied field region. So the dependence of magnetic bubble on the applied field, we can work out how it can be, we shall see. The dependence of the magnetic bubble on the applied field can be understood from this by taking the radius on one axis and applied field on another axis. Okay, this is magnetic field intensity applied. A stands for applied magnetic field. Now when the applied field crosses a certain value, let us say this value, saturated value, the magnetic domain changes into magnetic strip and hence decrease in bubble radius. So the same will be extended to the magnetic field also. When the field exceeds this limit, higher limit let us say, magnetic bubbles collapse. So therefore, film becomes fully magnetized. This is how dependence of magnetic bubble on applied field can be understood. So these are some of the common materials used for the magnetic bubble memories, like orthoferrites, which we shall represent like this. Here R stands for rare earth atoms. Similarly, hexagonal ferrites, which has got a lead combination, and rare earth ferromagnetic garnets. Sometimes you can use a combination of LR films and films also for the formation of bubble materials, even from amorphous bubble materials. So these are some examples that are used for preparation of magnetic bubble memories as common materials. Now let us understand the structure of a magnetic bubble memory in the form of a diagram or a schematic representation. What we want for this is very thin layer of magnetic garnet. This should be grown epitaxically. We should allow a very thin layer of magnetic garnet to grow epitaxically on a substrate, like crystal development. This substrate is made up of non-magnetic materials. Such as, for example, we take gadolinium gallium garnet of, let us say, diameter should be in the range of some 20 to 40 nanometers. So diameter in the range of 20 to 40 nanometers of a substance like gadolinium gallium garnet, which is nothing but a non-magnetic material, taken as a substrate. On that, a very thin layer of magnetic garnet is allowed to grow epitaxically. Now thereafter we use a permanent magnet to produce the required magnetic field for this. And we need a conductor which to be kept on the top of the surface to produce the magnetic bubbles. So the magnetic bubbles are made to rotate by employing a field using coils. So this is what is going to be there in the schematic diagram. I am again explaining. We are trying to understand schematically the structure of a magnetic bubble memory. It basically consists of a substrate which is made up of a non-magnetic material. So we will take a substrate such as gadolinium gallium garnet or any such material of non-magnetic nature in the diameter range of 20 to 40 nanometers. And on that we will allow a thin layer of magnetic garnet to grow epitaxically. And we use a permanent magnet to produce the required magnetic field. And we use a conductor also to be placed on the top of the surface of the device to produce magnetic bubbles. The magnetic bubbles are rotated with the help of field produced by set of coils. So this is how the structure of magnetic bubble memory schematic representation looks like. Let us look at that. So this is the substrate. Now this is the epitaxically grown slice. So this is the slice of magnetic garnet, right? So this is the schematic or diagrammatic representation of magnetic bubble memory. As I said earlier, a very thin layer of magnetic garnet is grown epitaxically on a substrate made up of non-magnetic materials such as gadolinium gallium garnet of a diameter in the range of 20 to 40 nanometers. A permanent magnet is used to produce the required magnetic field. The conductor which we place here on the top of the surface of the device is used to produce the magnetic bubbles. The magnetic bubbles are rotated with the help of these three coils as shown. Now field is applied perpendicularly. So here you have a detector to detect the bubble. Bubble will come out like this. Now this is the detector. And you observe T-shaped patterns inside when they are rotating. So this is the slice of the magnetic garnet, which is developed epitaxically on a substrate made up of a non-magnetic material. Now let us see how it works. The data is stored in the magnetic bubble memories by employing the rotating field method. For each revolution of the magnetic field, one new bubble is created. Similar to other storage systems, the data is stored in binary form, 1 or 0. Either 1 or 0, which are represented by the presence of or absence of the bubble memory. If bubble memory present, it is 1. If it is absent, it is taken as 0. The presence or absence of bubble memory can be studied by employing any of the magnetic property measurement instruments or techniques. The data stored in the bubble is not lost. That is the advantage. Because even when the power supply is off, the data stored in the bubble memory is not lost. And therefore, it is a non-volatile memory. But the only disadvantage or disadvantages of the bubble memory is it requires a high recording time for storing and as well as high time for retrieving the data, and also it requires an interface circuit to act. So this is one of the disadvantages. See, this is how bubble memory works. If you summarize the entire magnetic materials, so these are the basic formula we have come across as susceptibility. It is a ratio of magnetization produced in a sample to the magnetic field strength. And then this is magnetic induction field strength or magnetic flux density, which is given as phi by A. That is the number of magnetic lines force passing through unit area of cross section. Then you have magnetic permeability, which is also a ratio between these two. From this, permeability of free space can be calculated like this, where mu naught is the standard value. From there, you can calculate the relative permeability. So, relative permeability helps us to get this equation. And from them, intensity of magnetization can be calculated. And this is the relation between relative permeability in terms of susceptibility. And then we looked at the origin of Bohr magneton moment, wherein we calculated the value of current. So when you look at origin of magnetic moment and Bohr magneton, so we can calculate the revolving electron in a circuit, how much current it is establishing. So this is the current exhibited by revolving electron in a circular orbit. Right? Then from there we looked at orbital magnetic moment, where Bohr magneton is substituted. This is the standard value of Bohr magneton, and this is the contribution of spin moment of the electron, whose standard value is this. This is the contribution of nuclear spin. This is the standard values, and of course we have seen Curie-Weiss law in the classification of dia, para, ferro, anti-ferri, ferrimagnetic materials. Curie-Weiss law, Curie theory is being observed. So these are the basic formulae we have come across in our entire discussion so far. Some more may be there, but we have listed the main formula, so which are required to be remembered and practiced for attempting some of the numericals given in the university examination. Most of the problems given in the university examinations may require the use of these formulas. So we have to go through them and practice the numericals or problems based on magnetic materials. So with this we could complete the second unit called dielectrics and magnetic materials. So we shall focus on fiber optics and other materials in the next session, right?